Okay, so today we're continuing with chapter 8. This lesson is going to teach us how to use the properties of a parallelogram. Again, this chapter is going to have a lot of information that you're going to need to memorize. Again, there is a nice little outline that I've posted in the module. You can slowly add to it as we learn it. I wouldn't wait till the night before the test next week to cram all this in. So keep studying little by little. So our first thing is our definition of what a parallelogram is. A parallelogram is a quadrilateral with two pairs of parallel sides. Okay, just like before when we learned about the triangles, remember I could draw a little picture of a triangle, like shorthand, and say triangle ABC. I can now do the same thing and use this little symbol so I don't have to spell out the word parallelogram. So either if you're talking about a parallelogram, you're going to write out the word parallelogram and then put the letters or the angles that are in it, or draw the picture of the parallelogram. In this picture, remember these little arrows indicate that these lines are parallel. These are not congruency marks. When you name your parallelogram, you can either name the letters clockwise or counterclockwise, but they need to be in sequential order. So I started here and I went from A to B to C to D. You could have started out with B, C, D, A. It doesn't matter as long as it's consecutive. Everybody good? Got this, Alex?
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going. All right. Next one, here we're actually seeing it as a theorem. Now, in the previous slide in our definition, it said that all we need to make our quadrilateral parallelogram is two pairs of parallel sides. Now, we're going to get more specific, and in theorem 8.3, it's also going to state that opposite sides are congruent. So here in this figure, we could say that side BC is congruent to AD, and that AB is congruent to CD. So if opposite sides are parallel, both pairs, then it's a parallelogram, and opposite sides are congruent. Okay, we're going to use this fact to find side lengths. Okay, so this is a property of a parallelogram. This is the third theorem that we've seen in this chapter. We've got two more, and again, they're called theorems, but really all they are properties of this specific quadrilateral, which is a parallelogram. So in theorem 8.4, it states that opposite angles are congruent, and they've color-coded it. So 8.4, again, opposite angles are congruent. Now, in the theorem 8.5, it's stating that if the quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then consecutive angles are supplementary. Okay, so this is going back to where we learned about parallel lines. And if we had a transversal here, this angle B and angle A would be same side interior angles. Same thing if I drew my parallel lines this way, and then my transversal, then B and C would be the same side interior angles. So we have four pairs of supplementary angles here that are going to be consecutive angles. Good on theorem 8.4 and 8.5. Next theorem, 8.6. This one states that if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then its diagonals bisect each other. Now, it's not saying that the diagonals are congruent. All it's stating is the diagonals bisect each other. What happens when you have something that bisects something? What does it do to the segment?
Cuts it in half.
Good. Into two equal parts. So I can state that BZ is congruent to ZD, and also that AZ is congruent to CZ or ZC. Okay, so the diagonals create two congruent pieces when they bisect each other. And it's going from the angle that's non-consecutive, that it goes to a non-consecutive angle. So it goes from A to C or B to D. This is only 6, we're up to theorem number 6. Again, there's 19 in the whole chapter. So we're like 1/3 of the way, a little bit less than 1/3 of the way. Let's go ahead now and apply these properties. Let's look at the figure here and let's find all of the parallel lines here. Can someone tell me a pair of parallel lines in this figure? Alex.
BA and CD.
Okay, BA is parallel to CD. Good. Okay, I got another pair. Can somebody find that pair? Let me add some parallel line marks. Gabby.
BC and DA.
Good. And then you would say that BC is parallel to DA or AD, either way. All right. Now, congruent angles. Now, as soon as I drew in those diagonals, I complicated things. Okay? When I go to name my opposite angle pairs, I can't name it with one letter. Because notice, technically, in the picture here, angle B is congruent to angle D, but because I got a diagonal in there, I've actually got 2 angle B's. So I need to name my angles with 3 letters. Can someone name me a congruent angle pair? And we're naming it with 3 letters. Mary Angel.
Angle BAB is congruent to angle BCB.
Okay, BAD, and you said DCB. Okay, so the 2 green ones that I highlighted. Okay, let's find another angle pair. Name it with 3 letters, Gabby.
ABC and CDA.
Okay, ABC and CDA. Good. And she's talking about this one right here, those 2. All right, still have some more. Eric.
BEA and CED.
So BEA and CED. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Good. What kind of angles are those? Beautiful. Okay, those are vertical angles. So we got BEA and we got CED. Got another one. Anybody else find it? Kimberly. BEC, this one, and then AED. Beautiful. The other vertical angle pair. Perfect. So BEC and AED. And those are the 4 angles pairs that are congruent in this picture. Okay, now we have to name the congruent segments. Okay, picture is getting a little complicated here. Can somebody name me a pair of congruent segments? Isabella.
BE and BD.
BE and, which one did you say?
ED.
ED, beautiful. Okay, she's giving the bisected diagonal. So the BE and the ED. Anybody have another pair? Ramiro.
AD and EC.
AB and CD. Beautiful. I'm sorry?
Well, I said AE and EC.
Okay, same thing. Good. Perfect. These guys over here that I've marked with the parallel line markings. Okay, opposite sides are congruent. They're parallel and congruent. Okay, I need another pair. Gabby. AE and EC. Good. The other diagonal. I got one more pair. BC and DA or AD. Either way. And it's these guys. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So again, the diagonals bisect each other. They're not congruent, but they do when they bisect each other make 2 congruent pieces. Okay. So this is all the information for a parallelogram A, B, C, D. And again, just pick a letter, start with it, and follow it around. All right, example 2. They're telling us that RSTU, all 3 of them, well, only 2 of them have RSTU, but it wants us to find the missing pieces. So on my first one, letter A, what is the value of B? How much is B? Kimberly? 9. Opposite sides are congruent. Okay, what about angle X? 80. Opposite angles are congruent. And what about angle Y? Kimberly? 100. Remember, same side interior or the consecutive angles are supplements. So you would do 180 minus 80 to get the 100. That would also make angle T 100. I know it didn't ask for it, but know that opposite angles are congruent. Okay? B. Let's look at figure B. Now, when I talk about X here, I'm talking about the whole angle. Okay, I know it's kind of misleading. So let's first find the measure of angle A. That's an easy one. Good. Opposite angles are congruent. Okay? Let's find the measure of angle Y. How much is Y going to be? 45. Good. Because if you notice, we've got our parallel lines that we could draw here and our transversal, making these alternate interior. Okay, what about segment B? This thing right here. How much is that? 9. Okay, because this is the diagonal and they're congruent because it's bisected. And angle X. How can we find that one? Tessie.
You add 45 and 35 and you subtract from 180.
Okay, and what do you get when you add 45 plus 35? 80. So if this whole angle is 80, this would make this one 100. And the last one on this page, or on this slide, how can we find out these measures of X and Y? What do we know about 8 and 4X? What do we know about those two sides, Kimberly?
They're going to be congruent.
Good. So how would I find the value of X?
Divide 4 by 8.
Good. So I'm going to set up my equation as 4x equals 8 because they're congruent. And what's 8 divided by 4?
2.
And that's my answer. And then for y, what do I know about those sides? They're also congruent. So for that one, I'm just going to do 3y plus 4 equals 13. Subtract the 4. 3y equals 9. Divide. And I find out y equals 3. The most calculations that you were going to be doing would have been in that homework you completed that was due today. The rest of the calculations are going to be simple equations like this. All right, one more slide, and we're done with this lesson. So here it's asking us to find the perimeter of parallelogram PINE. So again, pick a letter, start with it, draw a picture. If you're not given a picture, draw your own picture. So I'm going to draw in a parallelogram, and I'm going to label my sides. So this are my angles. So this will be P, this could be I, N, E. It told me that the segment PI had a measurement of 12, and that IN had 8. How can I find the perimeter of this parallelogram? How can I find those other two numbers? What are we going to do, Alex? Okay, how much is EN going to be?
12.
Okay, how much is PE going to be? Okay, how do I find perimeter? Add them up, right? Anybody know what 12 plus 12 plus 8 plus 8 is?
40.
40. Everybody good? Okay, so you need to memorize all of these properties or theorems of a parallelogram. Know that in order to make a quadrilateral turn into a parallelogram, you need two pairs of parallel sides. Okay, once it's a parallelogram, those opposite sides are congruent, opposite angles are congruent, consecutive angles are supplements, and diagonals bisect each other. So again, if you want to keep a running, document that's got all of these characteristics, then it won't be so overwhelming once we start seeing squares and rectangles and trapezoids and kites and rhombuses. Okay, there's quite a few quadrilaterals that you're going to need to memorize all of their characteristics. Okay, so your homework is practice B. You can start on it now. If you get to something you don't understand, you can ask. Remember, you must show me the calculations and the work. No more calculators. So you're doing these calculations by hand now.